NFL draft nerds, welcome in. Really appreciate you being here on Friday, January 10th. We're having a little off the cuff chat about the offensive tackle class in 2025. We've had a lot of time to digest this group. I have not watched every prospect yet, but I have watched the consensus guys in the top 100 at the very least. I've watched some more as well, but I want to talk about the notion that on the consensus big board right now. So, NFL Mock Draft Database does a great job with their consensus big board. They compile big boards from around the web, tons and tons of them, right? Will Campbell is the top ranked offensive tackle. Kelvin Banks is the second ranked offensive tackle. They are both top 10 in the class on the consensus big board. And I have a problem with it. And look, Will Campbell is a top 10 prospect for me, but not at tackle, at guard, interior offensive line. And again, this is a little Friday, off the cuff, impromptu, happy hour edition, right, of the show. Cheers to everybody out there. Happy Friday. A little bourbon, 100 proof Old Forester, not bad. So, Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks, I have both of them projected at guard. Both of them. I look at the strengths of their game, which strength is a strength of both of their games. They are both physical, powerful human beings. They are both 320 pounds. Neither of them has great length, average to below average length at the tackle spot for both of them. I look at Will Campbell, and I do think that he has a better shot at being a better offensive tackle in the league than Kelvin Banks does. I look at Will Campbell, and I'm like, he does have, at least, he has the balance, the anchor, and he has been asked to vertical set. Kelvin Banks is jump setting, quick setting almost every single rep. And I think they're both pretty good athletes, honestly. But Kelvin Banks has not been asked to vertical set at all. So if you're asking him to go to an NFL offense where you're talking about a vertical strike offense, an offense where you're going to ask him to vertical set, and look, every NFL offense is going to vertical set more than they're doing at Texas right now. Bottom line, you just don't know that he can do that. And then my other issue with Kelvin Banks at tackle specifically is this guy falls off blocks a ton. And that's going to be an issue no matter where you're playing. But if you're falling off blocks because you're getting out over your toes, getting out ahead of your skis, your shoulders are in front of your feet, you're not playing balanced, NFL defenders are going to eat you alive. And so Kelvin Banks has got to rectify that major issue, in my opinion, or he's going to have a lot of struggles early on in his career, a la Evan Neal. And look, I think it's easy to fall in love with Kelvin Banks' game. Watching him in 2023, I was really fired up about him. I wanted to improve the balance a little bit, but you saw him show up in some huge games. The balance did not improve. If anything, I've seen him fall off more blocks than I did in 2023. And yeah, you can look at the PFF raw numbers and he doesn't allow pressures. He doesn't allow sacks. Again, he's quick setting. He's getting hands on people immediately, right? I think it's tough. I think it's tough to sit here and say that he should be a top 10 offensive tackle. I also think it's tough to say Will Campbell should be a top 10 offensive tackle. I could see Campbell being a first round-ish, like a top 32 guy at offensive tackle, but not a first round grade. I think Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks both project better inside. They don't have the length you're looking for on the edge. They don't have great kick ability, like the ability to kick at an extremely high level. And you don't even see Kelvin Banks asked to do it. Will Campbell struggles with it at times against these guys that have tremendous speed and length. Plug him in on the interior. And I think Will Campbell, if we had tape of Will Campbell actually as an interior offensive lineman, I would have him as a blue chip prospect. That's how much I like his game. Because again, he is physical. He is athletic. He is a dog at the point of attack. He's a dog getting to the second level. And Kelvin Banks is too. I mean, you see him absolutely lay out some secondary players, some linebackers, when he's able to land with solid contact. But I have major questions about them as top offensive tackles, not only from their deficiencies, but also like when you talk about the prototypical traits of top left tackles in the league specifically, what are they? Supreme athleticism, great length, great bend, flexibility. I mean, Will Campbell's got one of the funkiest stances you're ever going to see. And you talk about him, I think he has some decent flexibility. I think Kelvin Banks has decent flexibility. But like when you're talking about taking an offensive tackle in the top 10, you're expecting someone that's not going to be a decent starter. You're expecting someone that's going to be a Pro Bowl caliber player, an anchor on that side. And when I look at those two guys, I don't see it. Again, Will Campbell at guard, sign me all the way up. I would take him in the top. Like if that's your number one need in the draft, you want to address everything else in free agency, and you want to go get Will Campbell and plug him in at guard. In between picks 5 to 10, I get it, right? Hopefully closer to 10. Kelvin Banks, I'd be a little lower on, and I would be trying to plug him in at guard as well. But there are two prospects that I would feel really comfortable with taking in the first round. Maybe not really comfortable with. One that I would feel great about. Another one that there's enough upside and physical ability that I think that he can play left tackle at a high level. And then one who I get nervous about, but the tools are there. All right, so let's talk about this. Josh Simmons, who is coming off the knee injury, which is really unfortunate, obviously. Knee injury against Oregon. He was having a hell of a year for Ohio State. And this guy, he does have the prototypical traits, in my opinion. He's got great length. He moves incredibly well. Like I talk about Banks and Campbell, like they're good athletes. Josh Simmons is a great athlete at the position. He is so fluid. He is so flexible. He has great bend. I think that he has the runway, the platform to be a all-star, all-pro caliber left tackle in this league and be someone who can make an impact in a vertical strike offense, impact in quick strike, impact moving to the second level, getting out and blocking on screens, getting out and blocking on outside zone. I think that Josh Simmons is a stud pulling. I love his game, and it's just a shame that he dealt with that injury. I would still take him top 10 as an offensive tackle. If that's what I needed, if that's what I'm locked in on having to take an offensive tackle, Simmons is the one. Now, Josh Connerly is another guy who has prototypical length, prototypical athleticism. You actually see him vertical set. And I think the hands have improved. The strength has improved. So I think Josh Connerly, I would feel more comfortable taking Josh Connerly in the teens than I would Kelvin Banks. Like I'll have Josh Connerly ahead of Kelvin Banks, especially at tackle. Again, I have Campbell and Banks as guards. Josh Simmons as my number 1 left tackle. Josh Connerly as my number 2 left tackle. And if you want to play this game like of stacking the board, like, well, if we took Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks in the first round and then we stack that with what we get in the second round, a different position, I would much rather take a premium talent at the top of the draft, top 10, like, any of my blue chip guys, right? Which are Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Will Johnson, Tyler Warren, Malachi Starks, Ashton Genty, any of these guys. I would rather take them top 10 and then take a swing at like, who knows when Josh Connerly will go. I think he's going to go in the first round. Take a swing at like a Wyatt Milam or Ariante Ursary or someone of that ilk in the second round. Or Armand Membu. He's not even listed as a tackle on the big board here because they put him inside. But I think Armand Membu, Marcus Mbo, those types of guys, I would rather take a swing on them in the second round than be taking Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks close to the top of the draft. Strongly feel that way. So yeah, for me, when you look at these tackles, I would take Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly. I would take Cameron Williams because, yes, there is a lot of refinement needed, but he's a young prospect. He is freakishly large and strong, and he's a great athlete. And especially if you're a team that wants to get downhill and beat up your opponent in the run game, I think Cameron Williams is a perfect fit for that. Now he's playing right tackle at Texas. I think he has the physical ability to probably play left tackle, but there's a lot of refinement needed with Cameron Williams. But again, you're not drafting someone for what they're going to be in 2025. You're drafting them for what they're going to be in 2026, 2027. And I look at Cameron Williams, I would rather have him at tackle than Banks or Campbell, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with this left tackle class. I know a lot of folks kind of just, I think they take what was said in summer scouting and that's the final evaluation, but that's not the final evaluation. Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly, Cameron Williams, these guys have more prototypical traits to be legitimate stars at the tackle position. Specifically, Josh Simmons and Josh Connerly at left tackle than Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks do. I like Will Campbell a ton at guard. Kelvin Banks, I'm a little bit more iffy about, but I like him more inside than I do at tackle. You talk about some of the other guys that were hyped up. Emory Jones was super hyped up. He did not develop at LSU this past year. It is what it is. Wyatt Milam, a lot of people think he needs to play guard. I think he could potentially play tackle. We'll see how it plays out with him. He's unbelievable, in terms of his efficiency in pass pro at West Virginia. There's no question about it. Like, I don't think he gave up a sack all year at West Virginia. Are there some more I think athletically he's more average, maybe slightly above average. But I think he's got the requisite tools to be a starter in the league. So I'm just telling y'all right now. If your team is taking Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks to play left tackle, specifically Kelvin Banks, I think that you're going to be severely disappointed. That's kind of how I'm feeling about it. Kelvin Banks, the guard, I can get on board with it. Will Campbell, the guard, I'm like almost at him being a blue chip type of prospect. But if you're trying to get a left tackle to protect your quarterback, it's Josh Simmons or Josh Connerly. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good weekend. Cheers.